So in this lesson we're going to be using absolute values. What we need to understand is that absolute value is actually an operation done on a number. Absolute value also has a meaning, though. It means the number's distance from zero. With that, we need to have an understanding that you can never travel a negative distance unless you're talking about a negative distance with relation to something else. So, for instance, when you talk about the absolute value of -2, it's saying what numbers are 2 units away from, or how many units away from 0 is -2. And as you can see here, they have -2, and they have its absolute value answer is 2 units, as well as the absolute value of +2 is 2 units away. So now the other thing to keep in mind is that when we find the absolute value of a number, for instance, if I want to find the absolute value of -13, all you have to do is say how many units away from 0 is -13. Well, you're just going to put a 13. One thing I want to draw your attention to in this video is that sometimes the students will do something like this, and again, this is an example in red here of the answer that is incorrect. So they will say the absolute value of -13 is this. And they'll put it in the absolute value bars again, and that's supposed to be a 1 there, not a 7. But they'll say the absolute value of -13 is 13, but they'll have the absolute value bars around it on the outside. Now again, remember, this is an operation, so we need to say what the answer is, not to put the bars around it a second time. So again, this here in red is not the correct way to write your answer when talking about absolute values. So again, finding the absolute value of 3, you guys in your homework, it's just going to give you a problem and say, alright, tell me what the absolute value of 3 is equal to, and you guys can just say, I know that that's going to be +3. Same thing with -2 and 1/2. You can say, okay, I know that it's a positive answer, so you can say the absolute value of -2 and 1/2 is just 2 and 1/2. That's how far it is from 0. So now in these, you guys go ahead and pause the video and practice these. Again, this means a distance from 0, so try these real quick, and then you can move on to the next example. Number 1, you should get 8. Number 2, you should get number 2, you should get 6. Number 3, you should get 0. Number 4, you should get 1/4, or 1/4. Number 5, you should get +7 1/3. And number 6, you should get +12.9. Again, it doesn't mean the opposite. It means the distance from 0. So no matter what is inside that absolute value sign, you know your answer should be positive. Okay, with these examples, sometimes my students have a little bit of confusion kind of understanding what's going on. So when they're saying compare 2 and the absolute value of -5, they're saying, alright, tell whether that is greater than, less than, or equal to. Well, if we look at this, 2 is already itself, so we can just rewrite 2 like that. The absolute value of -5, however, does have a number value. We need to perform the math operation on that. So the absolute value of -5 is actually 5. So our answer on this one is going to be 2 is less than 5, or 2 is less than the absolute value of -5. So again, just understand there's an operation that needs to be done on the number right here. So again, pause the video, try these on your own, and try and figure out whether or not you guys kind of have an understanding of what's supposed to be going on here. Number 7, you should get greater than. Number 8, you should get less than, because -5 is less than 5. Number 9, 9 is less than 10. And number 10, you should get equal to, because once you take the absolute value of -3.9, it is equal to +3.9. Last one we have here is a real-life application problem. It says the table shows elevations of several animals. Which animals are the deepest? So if we look here again, it's the farthest distance from 0. We have the seagull that's above sea level, so it's ruled out already, as well as the sea line. It is 5 feet above sea level in elevation. And when it says deepest, it wants to know what is the deepest below sea level. If we look here at this line, it says shrimp are at -65 feet. that's going to be the deepest. It says, is the shark or sea lion closer to sea level? So we have right here, the sea lion is at +5, the shark is at -4, and it wants to know which one is closest to sea level at 0. Well, basically it's saying which one is closer to 0, -4, +5, and we can say that the shark is, because -4 is closer to 0 than 5 is. So here in this last example, it says, is the seagull or the shrimp closer to sea level, and explain why? So again, we look at where the shrimp is. It is 65 units from -65 to 0. And in the seagull's case, it's at 56. So it wants to know which one is closer to sea level. We want the one that's smaller. We're going to say on this one, it's the seagull because it is closer to sea level. 56 is less than 65, so it wants to know which one is closer, and that's going to be the seagull.